And at the top of the second half, it's 16-9. Easton leads the scoring with 4.
And that's why she commands $7,000 a year. These gals sure do make it look difficult.
But is having this minor skill worth being so unattractive? That's for the fan to decide.
Yay!
And at the top of the second half, it's 16-9. Easton leads the scoring with 4.
And that's why she commands $7,000 a year. These gals sure do make it look difficult.
Good morning. Getting a bit of a late start. That's because I decided to try to wait for Liar to get up with me, and then he never did. So I blame him for the late start. It's entirely his fault. It's not entirely his fault. I'm joking. I also got distracted reading. I was looking for something last minute for the show. And I eventually found it. Well, I found something close enough that, it kind of gets the job done, right? But yeah, I'm gonna message him one more time. But yeah, that's an old Family Guy clip, and I always thought that clip was funny, Yay! the one guy in the stands at a WNBA game. To be fair, more than one guy shows up, but still, it's not nearly as popular as the men's NBA. Everybody knows it. It's a giant money loser. The NBA subsidizes it. Everybody knows that. In spite of that, though, that didn't stop the NBA players from wearing stupid T-shirts that say, "Pay us what you owe us." We don't owe you anything. Like, on what planet does anybody owe you money? Like the Sorry, OBS had a moment there. But yeah, no, I believe in trading value for value. It's an exchange of goods and services. You believe that you should be paid X amount of money because you play basketball decently well. But if nobody's willing to watch you, if nobody's willing to buy your merchandise, if nobody's willing to subscribe to ESPN Plus just to watch your shit, then why do you deserve more money than as much money? Maybe not more. I don't think they're necessarily asking for more money, but why do you deserve as much money as LeBron James? You don't. Simple as. I don't deserve to make as much money as Tim Pool or Steven Crowder or anybody else who does the same thing that I do with a much larger audience. I command a small audience. I haven't monetized that audience. I don't get paid to do this. I just do it as a hobby mostly. And I don't demand that people pay me exuberant amounts of money. I don't. And anyway, shout out to ESPN. Kendra Andrews and Alexa Philippou. Oh, wow. Imagine my shock. The people I did have watching on Rumble seem to have fallen off after that little hiccup with OBS. It's okay. They'll come back. Okay, anyway. As WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert awarded Minnesota Lynx forward Nafisa Collier the 2025 All-Star Game MVP trophy. Chance of pay them rained down from the sold-out crowd of over 16,000. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Of over 16,000 at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. The noise was booming. Some of the loudest chants of the night. A small grin spread across Collier's face. The fans echoed the message players sent during the warm-up Saturday night when they wore black shirts that read, "Pay us what you owe us." The collective demonstration occurred 2 days after more than 40 players met with the league in the latest round of collective bargaining agreement negotiations. The players didn't think the meeting produced enough progress with a late October deadline looming. So, as the national audience tuned into one of the most highly anticipated WNBA All-Star games to date, the players put a spotlight on their behind-the-scenes fight to secure higher salaries and larger pieces of the revenue. Yeah, the reason why it's the biggest ever, and that's mostly because of Caitlin Clark, so one player. And then, on top of that, it still wasn't that big. Like, we don't have solid ratings, but you're telling me that this WNBA All-Star game, yes, maybe is the most highly rated WNBA All-Star game of all time. I guarantee it still doesn't command half, not even half, of the viewership of a regular NBA game. Just a regular season NBA game. And also, like, the NBA is down. Like, from what I understand, their viewership is down too. So, like, even nobody's wanting to watch the NBA anymore. So, still, it comes down to, do you deserve to be paid what you're demanding? And no, you don't. If you did, you would get it. It's not because you're a woman. It's because nobody watches your sport. Now, that part is probably because you're a woman, but I'm saying they're not paying you less because you're a woman. They're paying you what you earn relative to, the amount of audience you draw and the amount of revenue that your team and your merchandise generates. Like, let's take professional wrestling, for example. In professional wrestling, the top draw, generally speaking, is the person who sells the most merch. Because that is the most consistent way, at least in the WWE, that you can track who is the most popular based on merch sales. Because, you can have, like, you can use ratings and stuff like that. Like, whenever X person is having a match, do the ratings go up or go down? Like, those things matter too. But at least historically with WWE, the higher ups at the office tracked it by merch sales, which is one of the reasons why John Cena was considered by WWE to be the top star, the biggest draw in the business for so many years, because he sold more merch hand over fist than anybody else. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. Like, the only person who came close was in, like, 2013 and 14. around that time was CM Punk, who managed to, for like 2 months in a row, managed to sell more T-shirts or more merchandise, period, than John Cena. So yes, one guy for only 2 months managed to, if I remember correctly, anyway, managed to outsell John Cena. But for the 10 years period surrounding that 2 month period, John Cena was the biggest draw in the business. It was about merch sales. It's just that simple. Do you draw money? If the answer is no, then you're not going to get paid a lot. Do you think other wrestlers in the business deserve John Cena money? No, of course they don't. They're not that big a draw. You know, NXT kids do not deserve to be making John Cena money. They don't. That was a powerful moment. Los Angeles Sparks guard Kelsey Plum said to the crowd support, or said of the crowd support. We didn't, at least as players, we didn't know that was going to happen. So it was a genuine surprise. Those chants tonight, those signs, it just shows that as players, we are united, but the fans are united in believing believing what we're seeking. Well, sure, WNBA fans, what meager few there are, of course they would agree with you. The fans making that chant, Coulier added, that gave me chills. Yep, gives you chills because a bunch of people who already agree with you more. Knowing they wanted to make a statement Saturday night, the players gathered for a closed door meeting in the morning and decided that wearing shirts would send the message in a clear and concise way. Quote, we wanted to do something that was united as a collective, and I thought that it's a very powerful moment and got the point across, Plum said. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. This isn't the first time WNBA players have used their platforms to make a public collective stand. In the 2020 bubble, they wore several shirts to support the Black Lives Matter protest. Lame. In the second half of 2022 All-Star Game, they wore Brittany Griner jerseys while she was being detained in Russia. Yeah, she was in Russia. She broke Russian laws. She had drugs. In a country that cracks down on drugs. She wasn't a political prisoner. She broke the law, and she was in jail for breaking the law. Making another statement at this year's All-Star weekend wasn't by accident. It's the only time of the year when all the league's most prominent players are gathered. On the heels of Thursday's CBA negotiations, the players believed the moment couldn't have been better. Sorry, just checking, making sure everything on the OBS side of the stream is still working, and it appears to be. The display overshadowed an otherwise boring All-Star game. With the support of onlookers in the arena and from afar, the players hope it will apply more pressure on the league as talks continue. Quote, the mission is accomplished because we built an incredible amount of awareness this weekend. It kind of makes my point that people are more talking about like you wearing t-shirts during the warm-up than they talk about anything that happened during the game. Players have said a major holdup in negotiations has been salary structure and revenue sharing. According to WNPBA president Neka Ogwumike, whatever. The league and union are proposing two systems, with the league or wanting a fixed percentage and the players wanting a better share where our salaries grow with the business and not just a fixed percentage over time. With the WNBA seeing tremendous growth in recent years, including a new $2.2 billion media deal and skyrocketing expansion fees of $250 million, players want a salary structure that, in Coulier's words, give them a larger piece of the pie that we helped create. Quote, we see the growth of the league and as it stands, the current salary system is not really paying us what we're owed. And we want to be able to have that fair share moving forward, especially as we see all the investment going in, and we want to be able to have our salaries reflected in a structure that makes sense for us. That would be a fair statement if like this, if this thing is making a profit. If the WNBA actually becomes like big enough that it actually does turn a profit, that it's not a net money loser, that the NBA doesn't have to subsidize the WNBA, then maybe you guys can demand for higher pay. But I think you're being paid exactly what you deserve currently. Oh, wow, yeah. The union announced on social media that officially licensed "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirts are on sale for the public. The players are what's building this brand and this league, Collier said. There is no league without the players, past and present. The ones coming up, they're the ones that have to put in blood, sweat, and tears for the new money that's coming in. With the second half of the WNBA season resuming Tuesday and the playoffs race heating up, the players will look to build on the momentum from this week. Um, Aguamike and Engelbert reiterated Saturday that they're optimistic a deal can be done this year. That's the plan, she said. We're doing whatever it takes to get a good deal done. That's exactly what we want to do. Yeah, I don't like. First of all, I do find it interesting that Caitlin Clark, who's probably the biggest star in the WNBA right now, isn't mentioned anywhere in this article. They don't mention that she is that like the recent uptick in ratings has a lot to do, if not almost entirely to do with her and how much of a phenom she is. Like they don't mention her at all. Hell, she even participated in this. She wore one of these stupid fucking t-shirts. So you're gonna kind of like ignore the biggest star in the business. And who do you put, up here on the, who's the first person you see in this video? Fucking oh no, there she is. Okay, no, fair enough. Still, she's not mentioned anywhere in the article. They don't mention how important she is to the recent growth of the WNBA. Just doesn't come up. They don't want to talk about Caitlin Clark. I wonder why that is. But yeah, if you saw the title of this video, then you know that Hulk Hogan is dead. Yep, he died of a massive heart attack, unfortunately. Like an icon, an icon of the business, just an American icon. He's gone. Goodbye, brother. Wrestling icon Hulk Hogan dead at 71 after suffering cardiac arrest. His family breaks silence with touching statement. His ex-wife had just days ago shared a heartbreaking picture of good old days with Hogan. Hulk Hogan, the wrestling icon and WWE Hall of Famer, has died at age 71 after suffering a cardiac arrest at his home. Hogan, born Terry Jean Balea, died just a month after rumors swirled about his ailing health, including that he was on his deathbed. Yep. I remember this. This is the photo where he was having a hard time ripping his shirt. Here he is with a young Donald Trump back in '87. This is when he was WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Hogan's wife, Sky, had recently quashed rumors that the wrestling legend's health was failing, saying his heart was strong and he was recovering from a neck procedure that had been performed in May. Jimmy Hart, Hogan's former longtime manager, updated fans on the Hulkster's health on Tuesday, saying in an ex post that he was doing phenomenal. And that's probably he probably was like because that's a pretty common story that you hear that like the day before someone dies they were having like it's like oh it just came like they were having such a good day their health was improving you know and then the next day they're dead. Happens all the time. But on Thursday, Hogan died after police and emergency medical personnel were called to his home in Clearwater, Florida at 9:51 a.m. Clearwater police told the U.S. Sun that first responders arrived at Hogan's home after receiving a call about a cardiac arrest. Paramedics spent 30 minutes performing CPR on Hogan at his home in an attempt to revive him before they ultimately transported him to Morton Plant Hospital, according to People. The WWE Hall of Famer was wheeled out of his home on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance, according to TMZ, which first reported his death. Yeah, I don't like TMZ, but they do get some scoops, man. They get some scoops. Shout out to them. I don't mean to keep stopping in the middle of talking, but um, Rumble Studios being really weird. Like first OBS was being weird, and now Rumble Studios being kind of weird. Like Rumble Studio will normally give me like live updates about like the resolution and the bit rate and the frame rate and the packet loss and everything, but like for some reason it's not giving me any of that, and I'm not sure why. Um, make sure the chat is even working. Okay, yeah, chat's working. Chat is working, so I don't know. We'll just roll with it. Hogan was pronounced dead at the hospital at 11:17 a.m. His family said in a statement that he was surrounded by his loved ones when he died. It is with a quote. It is with a heavy heart and deep sadness that we confirm we have lost a legend. Our beloved Terry Bollea, known worldwide as Hulk Hogan, passed away today, surrounded by his loved ones. The family said in a statement. Hogan's family asked the public for privacy while they grieve the wrestler's death. Quote, we may all take solace in the wonderful memories he left behind for the millions of fans worldwide whose lives he touched for more than 4 decades. He will be missed but never forgotten, the family concluded. In a press conference on Thursday afternoon, authorities confirmed there were no signs of foul play or suspicious activity related to Hogan's death. I mean, he was 71 years old and he used to take steroids, so surprised he lived as long as he did, to be frank. An official cause of death was not immediately disclosed. Days before his death, his ex-wife Linda shared a heartbreaking picture of the good old days with Hogan. Ah, the good old days. I already read that part. An official cause of death was not immediately disclosed. Days before his death, his ex-wife Linda. I already read that part. My bad. The WWE confirmed Hogan's death in a statement. WWE is saddened to learn WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan has passed away. One of pop culture's most recognizable figures, Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 1980s. WWE extends its condolences to Hogan's family, friends, and fans. President Donald Trump paid tribute to Hogan in a Truth Social post, writing, "We lost a great friend today, the Hulkster. Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way. Strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. He gave an absolutely electric speech at the RNC convention. So the stands for convention. I'm retarded. That was one of the highlights of the entire week. He entertained fans from all over the world, and the cultural impact he had was massive. To his wife Sky and family, we give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed." Wrestling legend Ric Flair shared a heartfelt tribute to his close friend, where he recollected his own brush with death. Quote, Hulk has been by my side since we started in the wrestling business, an incredible athlete, talent, friend, and father, Flair wrote. Our friendship has meant the world to me. He was always there for me, even when I didn't ask him to be. He was one of the first to visit me when I was in the hospital with a 2% chance of living, and he prayed by my bedside. Sorry, got a thing on my phone. Hulk also lent me money when Reed was sick. Hulkster, no one will ever compare to you. Rest in peace, my friend. Paul Levesque, who is best known by his ring name Triple H, praised Hogan for transcending the pro wrestling business. WWE would not be where it is today without the larger-than-life character that without the larger-than-life characters that compete in the ring, and few, if any, loomed larger than Terry Hulk Hogan Balea, Levesque wrote on X. He was the archetype of what it meant to be a superstar, a global sensation that inspired millions to work hard at whatever it was they wanted to accomplish, and to look at what made him recognizable to fans around the world. Hulk Hogan, clad in red and yellow or NWO black and white, was simply put iconic. As a real American or the leader of one of the industry's biggest factions, he transcended and elevated the entire business to heights never before seen in every country and on every continent. There is no one like the Hulkster, and there very well may never be another. My family sends their condolences to his family, friends, and fans. Very, very, very nice words coming from Triple H. Vince McMahon, the co-founder of WWE, said in a statement, "The world lost a treasure today. Hulk Hogan was the greatest WWE superstar of all time, someone who was loved and admired around the world. He was a trailblazer, the first performer who transitioned from being a wrestling star into a global phenomenon. His gift and unbridled thirst for success were unparalleled and made him the consummate performer. He gave everything he had to the audience, whom he appreciated, respected, and loved. He leaves us with one of his favorite expressions: train, take your vitamins, and say your prayers. Today we pray for him." WCW legend Sting proclaimed Hogan as the greatest of all. Quote, "Can't thank you enough for all you did for me and for wrestling fans all over the world. I love you, and I will miss you. My friend Terry Bollea, rest in peace." The wrestler born Steve Borden wrote on X. This is a police statement on Hulk Hogan's death. Clearwater Fire Department and Clearwater Police Department personnel responded to a medical call at 9:51 a.m. today in the 1000 block of El Dorado Avenue on Clearwater Beach. The nature of the call was for a cardiac arrest. The 71-year-old resident, Terry Bollea, also known as Hulk Hogan, was treated by Clearwater Fire and Rescue crews before being taken by Sunstar to Morton Plant Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. Okay, yeah, we pretty much already covered that. Hulk Hogan became a larger than life figure during the 1980s, soaring to new heights while a part of McMahon's WWE, then the World Wrestling Federation. Hogan's far-reaching influence helped transform WWE into a global wrestling promotion juggernaut. He also became one of the most recognizable wrestlers ever to star with WWE, with catchphrases like "What you gonna do, brother?" Hogan's ring walk entrance, or enchanted. Hogan's ring walk enchanted and captivated the imaginations of millions of wrestling fans, sending crowds roaring every time his iconic Real American theme song blared through the arena. The arena would go pure bedlam each time Hogan walked up to the center of the squared ring and began to tear his bright yellow shirt off. His signature pre-match act that was replicated by Hulkamania's fan base for decades. Hogan's meteoric rise in pro wrestling spilled beyond the ring and into appearances on reality TV shows, TV commercials, and movies, including a cameo in Rocky III starring Sylvester Stallone. Hulk Hogan actually said once that Stallone kind of putting him in Rocky III was one of the things that helped really kind of get him over. You know, he took a chance on him. Because at the time, you know, he was still just kind of the wrestling guy. He hadn't transitioned into the global megastar that he would eventually become. Hogan is credited with having some of the greatest matches in WWE history, including his iconic face-off with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at WrestleMania 18 at the Sky Dome in Toronto, Canada, which was billed as Icon vs. Icon. The match itself wasn't like the best, because and I'm not trying to like piss on the man's legacy necessarily, but no, like Hogan was good in the ring, but he wasn't like the best wrestler ever. He was iconic. You know, he was a big star, but like his ring work, there were other guys who were, but this match in particular at WrestleMania 18, there's the great face off in the ring where they're both just like The crowd is absolutely going wild, and they're both just like standing there, like looking out at the crowd. It was a really cool, iconic moment. The match is not the greatest match you're ever going to watch. This is not. You know, it isn't Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. That's for damn sure. However, his most memorable match came early in his career at WrestleMania 3 in March '87 when he went toe-to-toe with legend Andre the Giant. The match featured a famous moment where Hogan lifted up the 7'4", 500-plus pound Andre, delivering a body slam, ran to the ropes, and dropped a signature leg drop finisher to pin the Giant for the 3 count. The moment is engraved in the minds of wrestling fanatics to this day. Hogan walked out with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. When he departed WWE for then rival World Championship Wrestling in '94, Hogan's heroic persona took a darker turn, taking on a bad guy image under the ring name Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Hogan ditched his signature red and yellow attire and began wearing black and white ring gear as part of his New World Order faction with Scott Razor Ramon Hall and Kevin Nash. At the time of his death, Hogan was creating the Fox Nation show Real American Freestyle, which was wrestling league at the wrestling league founded by the Star. A source inside Fox Nation confirmed to the U.S. Sun that the 2 inaugural events for the league would continue as planned at the end of August. So yeah, he was doing his own thing in wrestling, and that's still going to carry on. Yeah, of course they're going to cover, Hogan's scandals outside the ring, but I really don't care. Like I'm not going to go into any of that shit. If you want to know about some of the bad shit that he got involved in over the years, feel free to look that shit up yourself. I don't feel like talking about it. It's old hat at this point. The man's dead. He didn't kill anyone. He said some naughty words. Maybe he was kind of a dick backstage. Maybe he had, whatever. Uh, but yeah, I'm not going to cover it here. No interest in reading that part of the article. Sorry, just checking something. Anytime like OBS or Rumble Studio or something acts weird, I immediately like become more like oh shit about it. So I'm constantly checking, everything, making sure everything is still like working, and it is. It is. Okay. So okay, let's carry on, shall we? So the other big news this week, the story isn't taking center stage because I felt like the Hulk Hogan story was, well, to me personally, it was more kind of like important because I don't believe this next thing because look who said it. Oh, I got a notification. I wonder what that's about. Let's see real quick. Sorry about that. Probably nothing important. All right. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal claimed recently in a article that came out Wednesday, which of course is here, but they paywalled that shit. So but here's an excerpt which basically tells you what you need to know. The Wall Street Journal claims, and I'll read it in a second, but essentially the Wall Street Journal is claiming that Trump's name appears in the Epstein files, which here's the thing. It's entirely possible that it does. But if it does, it probably doesn't appear in anything that would allege that he did anything illegal. The two did know each other for a long time. They ran in the same social circles. They partied together. You know what I mean? Um, Shared a few private plane rides that never left the country, never went to the island, but whatever. Um, And what's their source for this? Anonymous. They're claiming that Pam Bondi back in May briefed Donald Trump on his name appearing in the Epstein files, which again, I will see there probably are. At some point during the investigation, someone that they talked to may have mentioned Donald Trump's name. So it's entirely possible. What the Wall Street Journal is clearly implying that Trump is in the Epstein files in a criminal capacity. And that's the reason why he's kind of like not super gung ho to get the stuff released, because he's afraid that it's going to blow back on him. Now, Trump is, of course, claiming that that never happened, that Pam Bondi never briefed him on being in the Epstein files. Now, of course, he would say that because it's the type Trump, never, never admit defeat. That's one of the three rules. Always claim victory, but still, the problem is A, it's Wall Street Journal, a rag that is known to lie. I mean, Wall Street Journal just like last week released the article with the Trump letter that they was in the book of birthday letters, and they release excerpts from the letter, and it's not something that Trump sounds like he wrote. It doesn't sound like his writing style at all. We see the dude tweets constantly. We know how he writes, and it's just like weird, creepy stuff. And of course, they didn't take pictures of this. They just claim that they saw the letter. They don't, actually have like any photos of the letter. They don't have the physical letter. They just say they read it. And then here they're claiming just an anonymous source, a senior White House official. When Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a, quote, truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. So they're claiming that it's multiple people. Multiple senior administration officials are talking to the Wall Street Journal. They're betraying Trump. They're stabbing him in the back, and they're telling the Wall Street Journal, hey, Trump's name is in the Epstein files. They don't specify what capacity that Trump's name is in the Epstein files, just that they're in there. And again, whenever you consider that they were at one point friendly with each other, ran in the same circles, flew on the plane, all that stuff. Shared plane rides and stuff like that. They didn't know each other. Epstein had been to Mar-a-Lago. Like, yeah, I'm sure somewhere, someone someone during the investigation may have mentioned his name. So, whatever. It could be not criminal at all. And then and here's the other part. Like, everybody kind of already knows, like, Trump's relationship with Epstein. So, it's not like there's some great secret here. In May, the big thing is the anonymous source thing. And I get it. Like, a lot of journalism relies on anonymous sources, but I think we're at a point now where the old establishment media, the liberal media, has been so thoroughly exposed as, liars, that it's like we can't just take anonymous sources anymore. You need to give us more than that. At least you need to give me more than that. I'm not going to throw MAGA and Donald Trump under the bus because you said that someone who totally exists, bro, I promise, take my word for it, told me that he's in the Epstein files. Okay, in what capacity is he in the Epstein files? I don't know, but he's in there. That doesn't tell me anything. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the official said. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. They're at least good enough to admit that. The official said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics and that Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. They told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. Some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the document said they contained hundreds of other names. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and victims' personal information, the official said. Trump said at the meeting he would defer to the Justice Department's decision to not release any further files. Quote, This is another fake news story, just like the previous story by the Wall Street Journal, said White House Communications Director Stephen Chung. In a statement by the Journal on Friday, Bondi and the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings, they said. Like I said, they can add like the little caveat that like it doesn't necessarily mean wrongdoing, but you're trying to associate Trump with Epstein in a way that doesn't necessarily reflect the nature of their actual relationship. And in fact, I should be honest, I should have pulled this up before. And so we're clear. Donald Trump did this.
Can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that. I definitely heard that, and I don't know that it was Trump himself as opposed to a manager there.
But it's Trump's club, so
yeah,
people credit him.
I've heard the rumor that Epstein was kicked out of there for allegedly trying to pick up somebody's daughter or something like that. But I think I did chase that down as far as I could and never was able to confirm it. But I heard.
I'm on the same boat with that.
Yeah, that was Bradley Edwards, the attorney who represented plaintiffs against Epstein. He was the lawyer for a bunch, and like I said, he was serving subpoenas, and he said of all the people he subpoenaed in terms of the Epstein case, Trump was the only one who participated. The only one. The only one. Period. End of story. And then, again, I covered this before, but Epstein believed that Trump caused him to be initially investigated by law enforcement in 2005 after the two had a fight over a property near Mar-a-Lago, an allegation that, if true, could arguably be seen as a heroic move by Trump regardless of the motives. So, yeah. People never want to talk about that part. They always want to use that quote of Jeffrey Epstein saying that like him and Trump were best friends for 10 years. I don't believe they were best friends. They were friendly. They probably did consider each other friends, but I don't believe they were best friends. And then later on, in that same kind of like tell-all where he talks about how like him and Trump were friends for years, he also said that he thinks that Trump was the one who caused him to get initially investigated that led to his first arrest. Jeffrey Epstein, the guy that people say was Trump's best friend, the guy that people think is in the Epstein files, that he's part of the whole, child sex trafficking thing, that Trump did something criminal. The guy who they're using to smear Donald Trump claims that he thinks Donald Trump's the guy who got him put in prison in the fucking first place. So yeah, let's sit here and pretend that Donald Trump is the problem here.
The only thing that I can...
So yeah. Moving on. And let me check. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on, cover some other things. We got more, the good news, the white pills to end the show. It's all good stuff for Trump. So, again, and this is one of the things that, like, drives me crazy about this whole thing is that, like, here's a guy who, as soon as he takes office, immediately starts putting in work. And we're getting all the stuff that we voted for. People are getting deported. Illegals are self-deporting. The wall's getting finished. Inflation is down, prices are down, gas prices are down, He promised us a trade war with nations who were taking advantage of us, and he delivered on that. Now, he's not a full-on trade war because he's backed off on the tariffs, but that's because the people came to the table and were renegotiating the trade deals, which is what he wanted. Like, you know, he's doing all the things he promised. We're getting everything we voted for. He does this one thing that people don't like, and everybody's just completely turning on him for it. It's an L. I'm not saying it's not an L. That, he probably shouldn't have taken such a hardline stance against releasing the Epstein files and some of his Truth Social posts weren't like the best. If I was his social media manager, I would have advised against him posting stuff like that. But, it is what it is. I'm not prepared to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But anyway, how are things going in the rest of the world? How Japan's hard-right populists are profiting from anti-foreign sentiment and a cost of living crunch. Nationalists win over disaffected first-time voters with a call for a return to family values and curbs on immigration. So this is The Guardian, and they're going to frame this negatively, but I just want to show that, nationalism, that is kind of coming back in style, even in, Japan. Now, Japan has always been known for being pretty nationalistic and a little, foreigners, it's essentially impossible for non-Japanese born people to gain Japanese citizenship. You can gain, a permanent resident status. You can move to Japan and live, I, as a white guy, could move to Japan. If I spoke Japanese, I could live there, marry a Japanese woman, spend the rest of my life there. But I would never be considered a Japanese citizen, just a permanent resident. And it's probably a system that isn't necessarily bad. It's worked for them. But now that, because, they've had a lot more immigration over the last few years, things have started to get rough, and I understand to a degree why they had to do it, because they're not having kids, so their population is declining, and the majority of their population is getting much older. So they've had to bring in for labor shortages and stuff like that. But then look what happened. You've got you're starting to get a lot of the same problems that other countries, Western countries, have got whenever they did the same thing, bring in a bunch of foreign labor, and it brought with it a criminal element that and then there's also all the problems with bringing or with tourism and tourists, especially Zoomer tourists, being very disrespectful to the Japanese people. A lot of streamers are coming over there and being cunts, Johnny Somali and all them. So it's understandable why the right wing of Japanese politics would suddenly become more willing to, kind of court this type of sentiment. A far-right populist party promoting a Japanese first agenda was one of the biggest winners in Saturday's upper house elections, gaining 14 seats. Set up on YouTube during the COVID-19 pandemic when it spread conspiracy theories about vaccinations and global elites, Senseido, I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly. I'm terrible. Liar would be making fun of me right now if Groiper control. What does that mean? Dickhead 12. Also, welcome to the chat, buddy. Anyway, if Liar were here, he'd be making fun of me for horribly mispronouncing that, whatever that name is. Senseido widened its appeal in the run-up to the vote, railing against immigration and bringing rhetoric that was once confined to political fringes into the mainstream. The Liberal Democratic Party of Shigeru Ishiba, the prime minister, and its partner, Komeito, lost their majority in the election, making the coalition even more beholden to opposition parties as it clings to power. Senseido's result took its total to 15 in the 248-seat chamber. Wow, so they only had one seat, and then they massively increased the representation in which is huge. 15 seats is small. Again, the 248-seat chamber, 15 seats isn't obviously it's not big, but considering you went from having one seat to having 15, like if they can maintain something like even half that level of growth in like the next election cycles, then they're going to get big. And good for Japan. Seriously, good for Japan. I think it's probably a good thing, you know. The party's message resonated in Japan, where global inflation and a devalued yen has pushed up costs, particularly for food, after decades of almost flat prices. Rice prices in Japan near doubled in the year to June, sparking a political crisis and leading to the resignation of cabinet ministers. Of a cabinet minister, not cabinet ministers. There's only one cabinet minister that resigned. Wages have failed to keep pace, and the sense of a sluggish economy but comfortable lifestyle has given way to a cost of living squeeze and growing pessimism about the future. Those on lower incomes are hardest hit, and it is from there that Sensaito is drawing much of its support. So yes, of course, the poors, the Japanese poors, the bunraku, the untouchables. Quote, many of its followers are first-time voters, the disaffected who feel the mainstream parties have nothing to offer them, said Michael Cusick, an expert in Japanese politics at Tokyo's Temple University before the vote. In its manifesto, Sensaito called for a return to traditional family values, repealing the LGBT Understanding Promotion Act, protecting Japan's unique cultural heritage, curbing immigration, and paying universal monthly child benefits of 100,000 yen, about $670 American, while stopping welfare payments to non-Japanese. I mean, I don't like UBI. So I kind of understand if you're trying to encourage people to have more kids, so you need to kind of incentivize them to do so. UBI is still not a good thing, I think, generally speaking. It failed in Europe when it was tried, during the COVID years, 2020, 2021. We basically had a form of UBI with so many people being on unemployment for a year or two at a time, and then these people didn't want to get jobs. Even after restrictions were lifted and they could go back to work, they didn't want to go back to work. So I don't think UBI works. But, again, it may work in Japan. Again, because at least it's observable that in smaller, more homogenous nations, you can have more social welfare programs, and they do tend to work and be a bit more solvent because at least, the famous example being the Nordic countries and their large social safety nets. But there's a lot of, again, they're very ethnically and religiously homogenous. They have a lot of high natural resources. They don't spend a ton of money on their military because they're NATO allies and they don't have to. So they have like all of this extra resources they can put into their social programs because they know that Daddy America will defend them if shit breaks bad in Europe. Quote, anti-foreign sentiment that was considered maybe taboo to talk about so openly is now out of the box, said Jeffrey Hall, a lecturer at Tokyo's Kanata University who has studied Japan's right-wing politics. He pointed to Sensaito's online following, appeal among young men, and warnings about immigration eroding indigenous cultures. The party's leader, Sohei Kamiya, a former supermarket manager and English teacher, says he has drawn inspiration from the bold political style of Donald Trump, the U.S. president. Very smart people. The Japanese, I love them. He has drawn comparisons with right-wing anti-immigration parties in Europe, such as Germany's AfD and Reform UK. Quote, in the past, anyone who brought up immigration would be attacked by the left, Kamiya told Reuters last week. We are getting bashed too, but are also gaining support. Concern over foreign residents has increased since Japan loosened its relatively strict immigration policies in response to a worsening labor crunch caused by a shrinking and aging population. The number of foreign-born residents hit a record of 3.8 million in 2024, although that is still only 3% of the total population, a tiny fraction compared to the numbers in the U.S. and Europe. So yeah, and again, I don't even think that necessarily you wanting to bring in like people to work in your country is bad, but I think it's not. I mean, it's not good necessarily. It's kind of morally neutral. I think it can work. It depends on who you bring in and what they're and like where they come from. Really, you know what I mean? and if they're willing to integrate. That's the other big thing. You gotta only allow in people like if I was Japanese, if I was in charge of Japan, I would require a Japanese language requirement. Like if you want permanent residence in the country, if you want to come here and work a job, you have to at least be able to speak the fucking language. And Japanese is a hard language to learn. So, it kind of shows if you're willing to learn it, it kind of shows that you at least have you're making an effort at the very least, and that if you can communicate with the people, you're more likely, not it's not 100% certain obviously, but you're more likely to integrate or at least try some type of integration. Here's the thing, like in an alternate universe where I learned how to speak Japanese and I moved to Japan to like teach English or something like that, and I ended up meeting and marrying a Japanese woman, like, but I'm still basically me who I am today. I wouldn't mind that I'm not a Japanese citizen. It wouldn't bother me. It was like I'm a permanent resident. My wife is Japanese. My children are Japanese citizens. It's like I'm never gonna be officially called a Japanese citizen, but that's okay. Like they're letting me live and work here, and I have like roots here, and I have ties to the country. Like so, and I respect the people and their culture and their traditions, and I'm not like obnoxious and like all the like. I think but I'm different. I would actually take the time to to do those things. I don't want to be rude. Like a lot of foreigners, Americans too, can be really fucking rude when they travel to foreign countries. And a lot of it is unintentional. A lot of it is just Americans being Americans and just kind of like going, well, this is how we do things at home, so I'm just going to act normal. And they're not going to Japan or China or Singapore or anywhere in like Eastern or like Europe or Africa. They're not going there with the intent of being rude. They just don't see the point in they just don't see the point in or not even that they don't see the point, it just doesn't occur to them to change their behavioral standards, to act differently. They're not intending to be rude, it's just kind of they're not thinking about it, which is still rude, but it's not. Motive matters at least a little bit, in my opinion. There are people who are rude on purpose. Johnny Somali, for instance. With nearly every sector short of workers, most Japanese people accept the need for more labor from overseas. Nevertheless, a large influx of outsiders into a relatively homogenous nation that values cultural conformity has triggered some disquiet. Exacerbating such concerns is misinformation being spread on social media, including false claims that a third of welfare recipients are foreigners. Tetsuya Kodaoka, a voter in Tokyo who said he had to take on extra shifts to make ends meet, accepts that Japan needs more immigrants to maintain its economy. But he added, I'm struggling financially. When people hear that foreigners are getting welfare, even if it's only a small percentage of them, they wonder why it's being paid to them instead of cutting our taxes. That's a good question, Tetsuya. That is a very good question. I have similar questions here in the United States. Speaking at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan on July 3rd, Kamiya said his party was not in favor of extreme nationalism or protectionism, as was aiming for global harmony and mutually beneficial international economic relations, but not exclusive free trade or not excessive free trade or disregard for national sovereignty. So yeah, not isolationism. You need friends, you need allies, you need trade partners, but that doesn't mean we have to completely destroy what makes Japan Japan in order to achieve, in order to make, numbers go up. Graph go up does not always automatically equal good. But my GDP, like, listen, I'm a capitalist, I'm an objectivist, I'm all for the free market, but like, when things are as bad as they've been, don't talk to me about how, but the GDP is good. It's like, yeah, but live on the ground with the people. You think they give a wet shit how good the GDP looks right now? They don't, because it doesn't feel like it's benefiting them in any way. Kamiya, who won the party's first seat in 2022 after having gained notoriety for appearing to call for Japan's emperor to take concubines, faced a backlash earlier in this year's campaign for branding gender equality policies a mistake, saying they encourage women to work and keep them from having children. Shinzo Abe is looking down from heaven, very proud. He's like, yes, carry on my legacy. Although he was a Lib Dem. But, and remember in Japan, the Liberal Democrat Party, is pretty sure that's, the Liberal Democratic Party. The Liberal Democrats is the Japanese right-wing party, essentially. Not the far-right party, like this party is, this guy's party. What was it called again? I've already forgotten. Sensaito. Yeah, the Sensaito party is clearly further to the right than the Lib Dems, but the Lib Dems were considered like the right-wing party in Japan for a long time. Shinzo Abe was considered a right-wing leader, and he had a similar message. Stop gooning and have babies, Japanese people. That's all I want. All I want you to do is have babies. Please stop. Please stop destroying the nation that your ancestors built. Have children. He has since appeared to tone down some controversial ideas formerly embraced by his party. His election manifesto, for example, includes plans to cut taxes and increase child benefits, policies promoted by a number of opposition parties that led investors to fret about Japan's financial health and massive debt pile. So yeah, make Japan great again, essentially. Like Majga. But like nationalism is becoming popular again, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. We need to, we need to do it. We're doing it here in the United States. I think other countries need to embrace it. And again, we can still be friends. We can still trade. We can still culturally exchange and travel to each other's countries and engage in each other's economies. And we can do all these things. We can still be friends. But that doesn't mean we have to completely fuck ourselves over in the process. Based Japan, as far as I'm concerned. So, more Trump news. Well, this is more Tulsi Gabbard news, I guess. DNI Tulsi Gabbard says whistleblowers are now coming out of the woodwork on the Russiagate. So last week I covered this, and Tulsi has kind of doubled down since then that there was a concerted effort by the Obama administration in the last year of his presidency to try to hamstring Donald Trump, and they created fake intel reports and everything to try to paint him and smear Donald Trump as a foreign asset, that the Russians interfered in the election, all these things. And, yeah, so hopefully she's not blowing smoke on this. To me, the strangest part of the recent release of documents confirming the involvement of former President Barack Obama and his national security team in essentially cooking up an intelligence community assessment that served as the foundation for years of investigations and false accusations against President Donald Trump is how numb so many are to the significance of it, as our Bob Hodge, maybe, rightly notes. We've been reading about it for years, listened to countless segments on cable news and talk radio, and yet, in a way, some people have almost become inured to it. Nothing will ever happen, they say. No one will ever be held to account. Well, I'm really hoping that with the DNI, like Tulsi Gabbard and everything coming after this, I'm really hoping that she actually... do you think we'll see, again, it's kind of the same thing with the Epstein files. Do I think we'll ever get to see Bill Clinton perp walked out of his house for stuff that's in the Epstein files? No, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Same thing with Barack Obama. I don't think we're ever going to see Barack Obama get arrested. I don't think we're going to see Barack Obama get perp walked out of his house in Martha's Vineyard. I don't think we're ever going to see that happen. I do think that he probably should be arrested for what he's done here. I do think he does need to face charges for this. He did commit treason, or at least what I consider to be treason. That's kind of for lawyers and like the courts, the Supreme Court and things to hash out. So we'll see what comes of it. I do think he definitely broke the law and he needs to be punished for what he's done. But do I actually think I'll see that? No. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be mad about it. It does rather feel like that, and yet perhaps the time has come, and we are about to see some accountability after all, perhaps. According to Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, this isn't just about newly discovered documents. There are now intelligence community whistleblowers coming forward too. Gabbard has been making the rounds on cable news shows since document closure on Friday. She spoke with Sean Hannity on his show Friday evening and again on Fox and Friends Saturday. On Sunday, Gabbard joined Sunday Morning Futures host Maria Bartiromo to discuss the disclosure and what we can expect going forward. The full episode may be viewed here, but here are some highlights, beginning with Gabbard reiterating the big picture implications of what occurred.
The implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president, commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do. So creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to, quote unquote, hack the United States election for the presidency of the United States. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic, and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
So, I mean, I don't even have to kind of like reiterate what she said, because she said it in clear language. He was on the way out. He saw that, his party member, his colleague, Hillary Clinton lost. And he didn't like it, so he and his people inside of, foreign intelligence decided to